Did you know that a species of human once walked this earth with ridiculous lung capacity? Lungs 20% larger than ours that gobbled up air, and superhuman physical strength that would make today's champion athletes look weak? They weren't just distant ancestors. They were Neanderthals, perhaps one of the most fascinating and misunderstood chapters in our deep past. These prehistoric humans were true apex predators, consuming large amounts of meat, so much so, in fact, that they are considered to have been hyper-carnivores, with 70% of their huge caloric need coming from meat alone. Yes, Neanderthals were definitely real, and what an amazing species they turned out to be. But who were they really? Were they the brutish, dim-witted creatures of past reconstructions, or were they far more intelligent than we ever gave them credit for? The mystery of their existence and disappearance has haunted scientists for decades. Their numbers were small, and the entire Neanderthal population wouldn't even fill an NFL stadium. Still, they made a huge impact on human history, and even their DNA can still be found within most of us to this day. Brace yourselves, because the story of Neanderthals is far more complex and what's fascinating, even more mind-boggling than you might imagine. Biology and misconceptions. While dates aren't clear, it is thought that this group of archaic humans inhabited parts of Eurasia between 400,000 and 40,000 years ago. Most of this time falls under the Campanian stage of the Pleistocene, a time when Eurasia was generally even colder than it is today. To survive and thrive in harsh conditions, surrounded by an abundance of megafauna that made life no walk in the park, Neanderthals evolved some of the most insane biology seen in any Homo species. For a long time, the popular image of Neanderthals was shaped by the 1911 Old Man of La Chapelle reconstruction. This depiction showed them as brutish and dim-witted creatures, almost a failed version of modern humans. This notion became deeply ingrained, viewing them as an unsuccessful evolutionary offshoot. However, modern science has revealed this portrayal to be nowhere near accurate. Assessments based on limited understanding and biases obscured the truth. From afar, their anatomical differences to us would not be so obvious, with the likeliest contrasting feature being their height. Recovered specimens show that on average, Neanderthals were quite a bit smaller than modern humans, typically being 5 inches shorter than post-Wapuppu populations. The tallest known Neanderthal specimen, dubbed a Mood 1, is believed to have been about 5 foot 10 inches tall. However, when comparing Neanderthals to European populations of 20,000 years ago, we find that Neanderthals were actually equally as tall and if not slightly taller. Real Neanderthals had stocky, powerful builds with broad shoulders and wide hips, bodies perfectly suited to survive in those harsh conditions. But their physical strength wasn't their only impressive trait. Extraordinary strength. The fossil record shows that Neanderthals had extraordinary physical strength that would make today's top athletes look weak. Their skeletal remains tell an amazing story of muscle mass that we would call superhuman today. These weren't just a few strong individuals, the entire species, these absolute units, evolved to be extremely powerful and muscular. What's fascinating, though, is that despite being shorter than modern humans on average, Neanderthals were quite a bit heavier, with the average male having weighed up to 183 pounds, while the females usually hovered around 146 pounds, making them 20% heavier than the average Homo sapien. The reason behind this paradoxical-sounding information is that Neanderthals had crazy robust skeletons that were much more compacted than our own, with virtually every single bone being thicker and heavier, sometimes even twice the density. Their shoulders, femurs, chest, triceps, arms, and kneecaps were especially bulky. Were Neanderthals stronger than humans? The answer is a soaring win, and by a big margin. Scientific analyses suggest Neanderthals were 3 to 2 times stronger than modern humans. Paleontologists describe Neanderthals as having Popeye-like forearms, developed from repeatedly stabbing large prey like woolly mammoths with giant spears and taking apart their huge carcasses. The well-defined nature of their arms and overall muscular build was possibly also a sign of extreme levels of hormones. Specifically, researchers believe that Neanderthals were naturally pumped up with large amounts of hormones that added to their increased muscle mass and provided them with the ability to pull off some pretty crazy feats of strength, such as lugging up to 50 pounds of meat for 30 miles. What's more is that thanks to their larger chests, shoulders, and triceps, Scientists assume that Neanderthals would have been pretty great wrestlers and powerlifters if still around, with males possibly being able to bench press 500 pounds without training. This came at a cost, though. They would have ruled at bench press competitions but failed at throwing javelins. These powerful bodies needed lots of calories, between 3,360 and 4,480 calories daily, especially in winter conditions, almost double what we need today. Physical adaptations. Their short, bulky builds played a big role in this strength too, but it wasn't only power that they gained from their robustness, as it bestowed upon them incredible durability as well. A nice touch to complement the brutally hard lives that many Neanderthals endured. Many faced extreme trauma and survived. Even their skin was designed for battle, as genes found in Neanderthals are associated with thickened skin, nails, and hair. That theoretically helped them cope with getting banged up and enduring the cold. And yet another adaptation that seemed to benefit their rough lifestyle were large joints that allowed them to perform strenuous movement. And while not necessarily larger, Neanderthal hands were also much different from our own, with their fingertips being broader and their thumbs sticking out at a much wider angle, which likely affected the way they gripped objects. To some, their hand shape possibly meant a reduction in precision capabilities, which they made up for, though, by powerfully gripping their items and weapons. Superior physicality. Their anatomy gave them several mechanical advantages: better leverage in flexor muscles, longer ulnar olecranon processes, and a wider pelvis with a lower center of gravity, making them powerful grapplers. Their crazy robust skeletons and hyperpolar body shape, with short limbs following Allen's rule, minimized heat loss. Their barrel-shaped rib cages gave more space to vital organs. They were pretty crazy on the inside too. These bodies gobbled up air with that ridiculous lung capacity, meaning they breathed like champs. Muscle tissue worked as an excellent insulator and supported higher energy metabolism, generating more body heat. Raw power defined their hunting strategy. Ambush and up-close thrusting spears, needing massive upper body strength. Research shows they were right-side dominant, with extra powerful right forearms. Their robust bones showed increased muscularity even in childhood, and many fossils show healed horrific injuries, proving not just incredible strength but incredible durability and remarkable toughness. Talk about hardcore. Many faced extreme trauma and survived. Head and chest adaptations. These ancient humans weren't just strong. Their bones and brains were built to endure brutal climate conditions. Fossils show real Neanderthals had a distinctive skull shape, long and low, with a rounded brain case and a pronounced occipital region for powerful neck muscles. Their heads, relative to ours, were not just bigger, but more elongated and forward-projecting as well. Their skulls had large orbital and nasal openings with prominent arched brow ridges. Their brain capacity, on average, saw male brain cases at 1,040 cubic centimeters, and in women, usually around 1,460 cubic centimeters, making them about 30% bigger than what's seen in contemporary humans. These unusually big, sizable heads house these large brains. Their mid-face region projected forward, with large, rounded eye sockets, estimated to be about 15% larger than our own, which would have helped them see a lot better and sharper, while also giving them better night vision. Their noses were quite long and wide, which helped them move air faster, as in 100% faster than what's seen by any man or woman today. The bulky nature of their noses seems to have helped directly with the cold as well, since more room in the nasal cavity would have helped to heat and humidify the cold, dry air. Unsurprisingly, their other facial features were supersized too, including the jaw and teeth. Their limb bones were notably thick with grippy, large joints. Their deep and wide chests created more space for stronger lungs, vital in cold environments. Their barreled chests accommodated a wider ribcage and larger lungs, with studies finding that on average, Neanderthals had a lung capacity 20% greater than our own. Diet and jaw use. And now for perhaps the most hardcore part. Scientists found clear proof that Neanderthals were cannibals at several European sites. At Moulin-Gercy, France, 78 bone fragments from at least 6 humans were mixed with animal bones, both showing similar processing patterns, broken open for marrow, with cut marks showing removal of chewing muscles and at least one tongue. The story repeats at Goyet, Belgium. Neanderthal bones showed clear butchery marks, cracked open for marrow, and later used as tools. At Covas del Tol de Moya in Catalonia, skull fragments from a young Neanderthal with cut marks on a collarbone were found, suggesting regular practice. In stark comparison, new evidence shows a surprisingly varied diet. Large herbivores like horses and bison, very dangerous prey such as woolly rhinos and mammoths, pretty crazy feats of hunting, small birds, fish, and plants including legumes, pistachios, acorns, pine nuts, mushrooms, and moss. Dental calculus from El Cedrón in Spain found plant matter, while Spy Cave in Belgium showed a diet rich in mountain sheep and woolly rhinoceros. Dutch sites revealed they hunted straight-tusked elephants weighing up to 13 tons, carefully butchering them for every bit of meat and fat. A single elephant could feed about 100 adults for a month, suggesting larger social groups or clever meat preservation. This is then, of course, reflected by their energy requirements as well, as it's believed that an individual needed between 4,500 and 6,700 calories every single day. Their thick, wide jaws and sturdy chompers were originally thought to indicate an insane bite force, but subsequent studies revealed a bite force not far from our own, comparable to the upper range of modern humans, around 700 newtons. So while it would hurt a lot to be bit, it would most likely not cause any catastrophic wounds, most of the time. One interesting idea claims the jaw was simply widened to accommodate the teeth themselves, which had essentially evolved to be a third hand, used to grip and manipulate items, as evidenced by wear patterns on their front teeth not aligned with eating. Technological innovations. Technological innovation stands as compelling proof that Neanderthals had sophisticated thinking abilities. And even more impressive, archaeological findings show Neanderthals created manufacturing processes so complex that Homo sapiens didn't figure them out independently until 100,000 years later. The most remarkable Neanderthal invention was birch bark tar, the oldest synthetic material any human relative created, dating back roughly 200,000 years. This wasn't accidental. They used an advanced underground distillation process needing exact temperature control in an oxygen-free environment. Recreating this showed its complexity, needing teamwork or exceptional planning. The adhesive strength reached 1145 MPa, 3 times stronger than other tars. Neanderthals transformed stone tool production by developing the Levallois technique 400,000 years ago. This marked a huge leap, requiring abstract thinking that truly shows just how amazing and far more intelligent they were than previously assumed. It involved carefully preparing a tortoise core to remove flakes of predictable size and shape with all edges pre-sharpened, an impressive feat classified as Mode 3 technology. This required imagining a flake that would only exist after the final step, showing clear mental sophistication, artistry, and symbolic thought. Scientists once thought Neanderthals were simple and primitive. New evidence shows they were artists and jewelers who could think in symbols, something we used to think only modern humans could do. In Gibraltar's Gorham's Cave, an engraving looking like a modern hashtag, cut into bedrock over 39,000 years ago, took between 188 and 317 separate strokes with a stone tool, a nice touch of ancient artistry. Similar engravings are found in France, and in a paradoxical-sounding twist for old theories, cave art in Spain dates back at least 115,000 years, 20,000 years before modern humans reached Europe, including red pigment lines, dots, discs, and hand stencils. At Krapina, Croatia, at least 23 eagle talons showed signs of being worn as jewelry. In Fiumain, Italy, they carefully removed bird feathers, likely for decoration. In Cueva de los Aviones, Spain, shells with holes and pigments from 115,000 to 120,000 years ago were found. At Einhornhöhle, Germany, a toe bone from an extinct giant deer with chevron patterns carved into it, dating back at least 51,000 years, was pure artistic expression, a pretty great find. Interbreeding and genetic legacy. What's fascinating, though, is that genetic evidence shows that ancient Homo sapiens and Neanderthals did more than just live side by side. They had children together, which left a lasting imprint on our species' genome. Were Neanderthals actually real ancestors? The answer is yes. Advanced genetic analysis pinpoints interbreeding to about 47,000 years ago, lasting roughly 7,000 years. People with non-African ancestry now carry about 1 to 4% of Neanderthal DNA. One interesting idea is that many of these genes helped early modern humans adapt to new environments outside Africa, affecting immune system function, skin pigmentation, metabolic processes, and even behavioral traits. A researcher explains, by interbreeding with them, we got a quick fix to our immune systems. Half of the Neanderthal genome still exists, scattered in modern humans. Social isolation and physical limits. Scientists have made a remarkable discovery about Neanderthal social structures. These ancient humans lived in small, isolated communities. The 2024 finding of Thorin, an exceptionally preserved Neanderthal in France, showed a population that remained cut off from others for 50,000 years. You may be wondering how such small, isolated communities survived. Neanderthal groups were tiny. They hunted within confined territories, and each group developed unique hunting strategies. Now, because Neanderthals breathed like champs, you may be thinking that they were exceptional long-distance runners. However, on the contrary, Neanderthals were surprisingly poor endurance animals, who were instead built for bursts of speed. Their toes were fairly long and wide for power, leg bones short, and Achilles tendons long and narrow, not ideal for distance. The true proof came from their muscle fibers. They typically had a way higher concentration of fast-twitch muscle fibers than we do, an adaptation for their hunting style. So, if Neanderthals came back, challenge one to a marathon, not a sprint. This isolation, while allowing them to thrive for thousands of years, made their genomes inbred and vulnerable. This does call into question, though, their long-term adaptability compared to the more connected Homo sapiens. Scientists noted the absence of gene exchanges, or their non-reciprocity between groups. The ghost species theory suggests additional unknown Neanderthal lineages. This isolation likely contributed to their vulnerability. Brains large with different cognitive priorities. Neanderthals are not a footnote in human history. They are an integral part of our complex evolutionary story. Their strength, ingenuity, adaptability, and spiritual life challenge old prejudices and force us to reconsider the place of Homo sapiens. They possessed some of the most insane biology perfectly tuned for a challenging world. All this power and speed no doubt gave them quite a lot of brawn. But interestingly enough, they were also a lot of brain as well, as they had freakishly large brain cases. Now, pure size alone does not paint the full story of intelligence, but their huge brains were a good sign that they were at least far more intelligent than first thought. Yet, despite the size of their brains, researchers do not necessarily think that Neanderthals had superior mental prowess compared to us, as their brains were also structurally different, having a more circular bomb-like shape that had to operate a large body and devoted larger areas to certain senses, such as smell and eyesight, as their occipital lobes were relatively huge. Their legacy lives on in our DNA, a reminder that we are not the sole pinnacle of evolution. Their disappearance, likely a combination of climate change, competition, and the vulnerabilities of small, highlights the fragility of existence and the role of luck in survival. We, Homo sapiens, are perhaps just the survivors, inheriting a planet and a partial legacy from our departed cousins. At this point, I wouldn't blame you for thinking Neanderthals were quite funky and different compared to us. So, there you have a deeper dive into the world of the Neanderthals, a species far more complex and, frankly, more impressive than many of us were taught. The science is always evolving, and what we know about Neanderthals today will undoubtedly be refined and expanded upon in the years to come. It's a testament to the enduring power of curiosity and the dedication of researchers who piece together these ancient lives from fragments of the past. Now, I'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts on all of this. What part of the Neanderthal story just grabbed you? Were you as amazed by their capabilities as I am? Drop your thoughts, your aha moments, and any questions you've got in the comments below. A massive thank you for your incredible support and for joining me on this adventure. We'll see you in the next video.